Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Student Showcase series, where I interview some of our VFX apprentices to give you guidance and inspiration as you begin your magical VFX journey. So today I am joined by Harmonie Duquesne. Hi, Harmonie.
Hey Jason, how are you doing?
Good. I know I'm not saying it correctly. How do you say it in French?
Um, so you said Harmonie Duquesne.
Okay, so maybe close enough. I'll do my
Great, close
best.
enough. Definitely close enough.
Awesome, awesome. Harmony has a job right now working on a game that you might have heard of. It's called Valorant, made by Riot Games. And we wanted to talk a little bit about her journey getting there, what it was like in the early days of her VFX learning and growth. Because I know sometimes we see people working on these amazing projects and we're like, how do I get there? This is quite the undertaking. So we're going to break it down for you. I'm really excited for the interview today. So let's dive right in with the simple question. Harmony, how did you find VFX? What got you interested? What got you started? And tell us a little bit about that journey as you had those first beginning steps into this crazy world of visual effects animation.
So the first things I can say is that I didn't want it to be a VFX artist. When I was a student at it's at sorry, it was it's a digital video game school, and I wanted to be an environment artist. The thing is,
Okay.
I had absolutely no opportunity to work there. There was like nothing. And the thing is, the school pushes us into internships. And even though it was a very short internships, once I ended my studies, like it crashed in 2 months. 2 months later, I was out of job, etc. But it gave me somehow just enough materials to for my portfolio because it was an internship on VFX and shaders.
Right.
So 9 months later, I get a mail from Gameloft Paris, and they've been looking for a VFX artist for months. They were struggling a lot, and somehow they found my portfolio, and that's how I got it. After
This
a
is
lot
so
of stress, 1 week test, but I got it. I got it for sure.
I'm sure that application was like, oh my gosh, Gameloft, this is insane. And it was like super crazy that this was happening to you, but they were excited because this is a continuing theme with all the studios right now is like no one can find enough VFX artists, right? It's very challenging. So about when was it that you started at Gameloft? How long ago was that?
It was around May 2019. This is when I get started.
And then in September of 2019, we launched our first class at VFX Apprentice.
Exactly.
And you were one of the earliest people in that, right?
Yep, Gameloft was very kind and offered me the course. Because one thing is, at the time, I had no mentor to speak of. We had one art director for mobile games, but he had no experience really on VFXs. So it meant
That's right.
I was the only one who could raise the bar and try to get better. But let's be honest, I had no idea what I was doing.
you, you had no effects faculty, no one teaching you effects at school, no effects mentor at your first job doing effects. And so it made sense to do at least VFX Apprentice, some kind of online community that could help you.
Right, exactly.
Now,
And
for
yeah,
anyone
go
who's wondering,
ahead.
because I know we all know Gameloft is a pretty big label, but they have many studios around the world, correct? And so this is just one of those studios, and it happened to be one that where you were the only effects artist. Am I understanding that correctly?
Exactly, exactly. It was a very small team. It had been created like less than a year prior, I believe,
Hmm.
and they were looking for people to make experimental prototypes because Gameloft is so used to release big games like Asphalt that has like 4 years, 5 years cycle development,
Right.
I believe. They needed people to experiment, and which meant our game had around 3 months dev time maximum.
Wow. So you got your first gig with Gameloft. You got into VFX Apprentice at the very, very early days. I was still working at Riot Games at that time, running this
Oh,
online school in the early days. I think for the first 8 months of our operation, I was still working full time. So we were still figuring things out. Things were quite rough. This was over 2 years ago. And that's fun. So tell me a little bit about what that was like. Like, I mean, were you nervous working at this like studio? Were you excited? Like, how did VFX Apprentice help with that?
mm.
What was your overall experience during that time, and about how long were you there at Gameloft?
So before Gameloft, I was self-depreciated. I felt like I was just a pile of trash. And then I joined Gameloft and I felt like, okay, there are all those good people and talented people around me. Why did they hire a pile of trash? I don't understand.
Oh, the
So,
imposter syndrome. Oh my gosh, we all
yes,
deal with that so commonly.
and it it never exactly got away, at least until I decided that I needed to leave. But the first months were by far the most difficult because I needed to adapt to a new work environment, to people, to a new also workflow. It was very different from everything I knew at the time. So yeah, it was a bit nerve-wracking, but
Yeah.
thankfully I had this little guy say hello.
Oh, who's
It's
that?
it's Platyball, that's his name. It's a baby round platypus, and a friend gifted to me once I got in game. And people on the office could see me like squishing the heck out of it because I was so nervous. And but they accepted me and this little guy. So it really
I love
helped me
that.
calming down. That was good. That
I love that. I think
helped
it's
a lot.
easy when we see the games that these teams create, we might assume that the people making them are like larger than life, amazing, perfect human beings, but we're all just imperfect human beings, right? Like we all have our quirks, we have our anxieties. You mentioned, looking at yourself a certain negative kind of way. This is something that I really want to underscore for anyone watching. All of us, myself included, regularly like put ourselves down and feel like we're not good enough, we're not able to do it. And we actually need each other in a community to reflect that back to us that, oh, I'm not the only one who feels that way. The only way I've been able to overcome those feelings, and Harmony, you tell me if you feel the same way, is by being around other people that are like, what? You feel that too? Oh my gosh, I'm so relieved. Like if you're feeling that way, then maybe it's okay for me to feel that way. And how wonderful that they were accepting of you to have the squishy plush, that was your
Yes.
way to cope with the feelings of anxiety in a very stressful environment where you're like, these are like, this is amazing. Like, how am I here? Feels unreal to me or surreal to me that I'm in this environment.
Yeah, I can confirm. Having people and being able to honestly share how you feel with them, it it definitely helps. One plush can only do this much, but talking with people and being able to
Yeah.
share, that's definitely something that helps.
That's wonderful. And hopefully encouraging to anyone who's watching who struggles with social anxiety or self-image, like this industry can work for you. If you find the right team, the right group of friends that can support you, they are out there, I promise. And be mindful if a studio seems to have a culture that doesn't match with you, that's totally fine, especially if you're an effects artist, because you're going to have no trouble finding other studios that would love to work with you. So tell us about this journey from Gameloft to transitioning and like working on your portfolio and developing to the point where you were able to work on Valorant. You're actually a contractor with Tuatara, correct? So you're working with them as an employee or as a contractor. I don't know how that works. But how did you catch their attention to say, wow, Harmony's amazing. she's ready to work on Valorant. Like, how did that happen?
Right. So basically, it was 4 months ago, something like that. I felt like my time at Gameloft was done. I certainly wouldn't learn anything more. I
Mm.
was also very badly underpaid. This is a factor.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, so the people were good, but the work itself just couldn't bring anything more. And so I realized that I completely neglected my portfolio at the time.
Mm.
And oh no, I want to leave as soon as possible, but at the same time, working on a portfolio takes a lot of time. So what I did was, well, I take a shortcut. Basically, I needed to get that portfolio done before hunting for job application. And I simply took every VFX I made that made it into the portfolio back in the day, and I revamped it because I had much more experience. I could improve on them, and it really the let's say the base of the VFX was good enough, was interesting enough for me to
Mm.
just improve, get the timing better, get the textures, the shaders, make it look more spicy. Uh, that that really helped me both saving times and seeing how much I made progress over the 2 year and a half.
I love that strategy, and that's really good advice for anyone who's early that maybe they have their first portfolio and they feel like it's not very good or they wish it was better, but it's probably good enough for your first job. And then save those files because later on it might save you some time if when you're ready to take the next leap forward into a more, I guess, like high performing job or a job that requires more of you, you can go back and refine that pretty quickly. That's a great strategy. I've never heard of somebody doing that before.
Yeah, it definitely helped. The thing is, despite having worked on 25 or so mobile games,
Hmm.
none of them were presentable. Could
Oh,
be none of them could showcase what I could do because it could be the dev time that would be too short, or the game would be outright broken. Um, and in the end, out of the 25 games I worked on, only one made it on the portfolio, and it's all smoke and mirrors. Like nothing works. Only the asset I produced specifically for that game were showcased.
so
So
really you relied on your resume to show that you know how to work on games instead of your portfolio showing that you knew how to work on games.
yeah, it
Because
I
you couldn't
had to
show a lot of
mostly
in-game stuff. Yeah.
exactly. So I'm happy that I could at least show one thing, but I know some people where they just cannot show because they're either under contract to not say anything, or the material is simply too old or broken. And thankfully, I had just enough to say, okay, on my portfolio, here, I worked on games. See, this is what I
Right.
can do.
Right. Yeah, so like just so people have context on this, if you're applying as a junior artist, it's usually quite okay to not have game experience in your past. Usually it's okay to just have a portfolio that showcases you know how to do effects. But the moment you want to be a mid-level or a senior level artist, or sometimes maybe even a junior at like a very large studio, then you might need some work experience. And that can be showcased as in Harmonie's case, uh, by just saying that you've worked on these projects and showing in your resume. Or sometimes it can be good to show them in your portfolio, but it's not always necessary. So
Definitely.
that's great. So how did you get in touch with Tuatara? What happened there?
So my portfolio was ready, and the people at VFX Apprentice really helped me a lot on that. And I was like, okay, I don't know where I want to work, but learned that there was some opportunity for working remotely. So it's this possibility that I explored.
Mhm.
I found some shady stuff, then I found this job offer at Tuatara, and I was
Mhm.
really impressed by their portfolio because they not only had big names like Epic Games, Riot, they also had some smaller projects, games that I'm way
Yeah.
more familiar with, like Solar Ash that just released a couple of days ago, and stuff like that. So it was
Yeah.
so good. That portfolio was so impressive. I was like, okay, this is where I want to work. This is this is what I want.
Yeah. Clem and Lozar and the rest of the team over there are just top-notch, amazing effects artists. That's cool. So you applied and they obviously accepted. So that's great. And you've only been working now with them. I mean, you're with them, but now doing Valorant work for a short period of time. You like it so far? It's pretty cool.
Yes, yes. It was another great change because I'm working from home and I only speak with English speaking people. So this is
Mhm.
a big change. I needed to adapt, obviously. But really, it was a change for the best. First, I got to learn Unreal. I used to work almost exclusively on Unity back then. And this
Right.
was the opportunity for me to work on more stuff and more diverse stuff. And second, I now have mentors. I can show my work and have people say, okay, this is good. You could improve on your timing or your shapes or stuff like that.
Oh,
And
hooray. I'm so happy you have a
this
mentor.
is great. I feel like I made a lot more progress in 4 months at Tuatara than in 2 year and a half at GameLoft.
That's so good to hear. I remember so many times in our weekly live sessions, you were always coming with work and you're like, here's this thing that I did. And we're all saying, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. And you're like, really? Okay, I'm glad because no one told me, like, no one knows. And so you were actually relying on us in your community to help you even with the stuff that you were doing there for your work. And I'm so happy for you that, I mean, we did the best we could. We always do. And I know that you were very active on the Discord, especially towards the end of your time at Gameloft. And I'm really excited now that you get like rewarded for that. That all of the time putting yourself out there, now you've got a team of people around you that are able to give back to you on that. So
Yeah,
that's cool.
it's one of the really good things about VFX Apprentice. On top of the course that are really good and really helped me back in GameLab. The community is so helpful and so nice. Like I only have great things to say. The hangouts are great. The feedbacks are excellent, and now we got weekly lessons, so that's really good, and
Yeah,
it definitely helped.
it's been amazing. I think so much of it was just there were a few key people at the beginning of this year in 2021 is where we are right now who stepped up and really took initiative to help foster the community. And I was like, awesome. Do you want to be a teacher's assistant? Will you be a TA, a moderator for us to help? And they consistently agreed to it. And now we have this nice group of TAs that sort of set the tone for the community and give great feedback. They have their day jobs and normal work that they do, but they also spend time helping us. And it's just blossomed. I think with just a few key people in place, now what we see is individuals like you. You're not a TA, but you're a great contributor, and many others that have really stepped up to just take that example and embody it. And it's a very giving community, I would say. I don't know if you agree with that assessment, but it's been nice to see it take a life of its own.
Yeah, completely, and it's good. I mean, some other community feels more overwhelming.
Yeah, I think it's like it's easy to fall into that because the craft itself is overwhelming. I mean, let's be honest,
Yes.
effects is a very big topic and there's a lot to learn and it can be a little bit much. And so, yeah, I think if you're already on your track and those resources can be very supportive to you, I think that's great. What we strive for is like total beginner, like never touched it before in their life. This is their first experience with it. We want them to feel welcomed and embraced and able to be supported at every stage. So, but yeah, I get what you mean. All of us had that experience. You mentioned being overwhelmed when you started, regardless of where you start, whether it's a school or a company, right? It's
Mm.
bound to be overwhelming.
Definitely,
um,
definitely.
so we're trying to make it not that. That's like a specific thing we're after. So I'm glad to hear that it's worked for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Before we end, is there any advice that you want to give for someone just starting out today? If there's one thing you could say that you could go back in time and do differently, what would you encourage somebody to do?
I'm going to say this. We as VFX artists are more than problem solver. We are more than gameplay communicator. We are also storytellers.
Hmm.
And I feel like this is something we need to explore a bit more because we are so used to do like, okay, this is a spell I do. And whoa, what a nice spell. Okay, sure, but we need to give it an edge, something unique and something that will help the VFX artists, I feel, for the years to come, are to improve on what they want to say more than just the executive craft. This is
Yes,
what will help us pushing forward the VFX, I feel.
that's awesome. That's great. All right, well said. I really have nothing else to add. I'm just so grateful that you were here with me today to chat, and I'm sure everyone watching is really going to benefit a ton from this. So thanks for coming, and thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you later.
Goodbye.